Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Have you ever wondered how scientists know what distant stars are made of, even though we have never been there or collected any samples? This is because each chemical element that makes up matter produces light, with a different spectrum when it burns. Astronomers use spectroscopes to study the light from distant stars, and from the lines in the spectrum, they can tell which elements are present. For my project, I have built a spectroscope to study various types of light sources around the house and to observe the differences in their spectrum.
The materials I use to make my spectroscope are listed here, and the procedure to make it is shown here. It is important to note that while you are cutting the slit for the CD, it has to be at a precise 30-degree angle.
This is my spectroscope. Light enters through this slit, goes down the tube, bounces off this CD at a 30-degree angle, and splits into its various colors and can be seen through this peeking hole. I have used my spectroscope to study sunlight, LED light, and light from a fluorescent bulb.
When we look at our control, which is sunlight, we see all the colors of the spectrum are present. Now, when we look at a cell phone light or LED light, we can see that there's no yellow and only red, green, and blue lights are present. Now, as we go look at a compact fluorescent bulb, we see that there are peaks at different colors. To understand the differences between the light sources observed, we need to take a look at their emission spectrum. As you can see, the emission spectrum of visible light is a continuous curve, whereas the emission spectrum of LED lights or cell phone lights has 3 distinct peaks. And looking at a compact fluorescent bulb, we can see even sharper peaks, which line up with our observations. The question still remains, why does each element give off a different spectrum? To answer this, first we must understand the atom and the different energy states of electrons. Every atom has protons and neutrons in the nucleus, with electrons orbiting them. According to quantum mechanics, the electrons can only occupy specific orbitals. When these electrons are excited by absorbing energy from a photon, they can move to a higher energy state. However, they are not stable at this higher energy state and eventually return to their stable ground state. Because we know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, when this electron returns to the ground state, it gives off a photon, equivalent to the specific energy gap. Depending on the energy gap, we will observe different colors or wavelengths of light. In this example, you can see how moving from different energy levels gives off different colored light. So how does the spectroscope split up all these different colors of light and allow us to see them? In our spectroscope, the CD does the same thing as a prism and splits the light. In conclusion, my hypothesis was partially correct because we study the color or spectrum of the light from a star to figure out what elements they're made of.
In chapter 67, verse 4 and 5, Allah says, "No incongruency can thou see in the creation of the gracious God. Then look again. Do you see any flaw? And look again, and yet again. Your sight will only return to you confused and tired." The more you study and understand Allah's creations, the more you will see how complex and beautiful they are.
Through this experiment, we can see how accurate this verse truly is.
Jazakumullah.